Good people on the quest for good content. What is good? Welcome to another installment of You Can't Rap Better Than, where somebody on this channel, either me, David, or Jordan, or a party to be named in the future if we get more collaborators, talks about verses that we love and tries to pitch you and sell you on why we think they're examples of perfect rapping. I think I've done two up to this point, Most Def and Andre 3000, and take a little bit of a different spin and talk about Paul Wall's verse off of Drive Slow, off of his People's Champ album, and also Kanye's Late Registration album. They kind of shared that cut together on their albums, which I thought was pretty cool. My first two examples that I did with Most Def's Thieves in the Night, I did that with David, and then Andre 3016. I really got into the nitty gritty on like the technical aspects of their rapping, the themes of the lyricism and things of the like. That is obviously a huge portion of rapping, but that's not the only thing that we think about when we're discussing music, right? We're talking about instrumentation, delivery of the lyrics, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason why I think you actually can't rap better than Paul Wall's feature verse or verse on Drive Slow is because I actually think this is like a perfect example of nestling your vocal delivery in the pocket of the beat and riding the beat so effortlessly, but also building on a previous verse's subject matter while still making your contribution to the song uniquely your own. And so I'll talk about what that means, obviously. But first, the pocket piece. Flow is obviously a huge portion of rap. How you deliver your lyrics and convey your message with the right energy, vocal inflections, obviously word choice, but that goes more into lyricism. These are all key components of what makes a rapper or just a vocal artist or a vocalist distinct and captivating when we listen to them in our earphones or obviously see them live and things of the like. And Paul Wall, he just delivers this verse with the consummate amount of swag. In the previous verse, Kanye West really sets the stage about growing up with one of his homies who he really looked up to because he seemed to have all life figured out, at least in the early stages. He had a car, he was good looking, he had no problem getting girls, things of the like. And these material aspects that Kanye West was basically internalizing in his up and coming years was something that he wanted to emulate. But his homie at the end of the verse basically says, like, take these things slowly or drive slow, a la the title of the song. Paul Wall, in his second verse, basically personifies this character while still basically just popping his shit and flexing, talking about his individual lifestyle, but it dovetails so nicely into what Kanye was basically saying. So you get the environmental storytelling of Kanye West observing his homie that he grew up with, and then Paul Wall basically encapsulating that with a perfect flow that just so is beautifully nestled into the sample that Kanye chopped up. And as a result, you basically get a verse that is so easy to replicate, but that simplicity is the genius. And I was talking about this with a couple people before. This verse just has such like amazing mouthfeel, which is a weird way to describe it, but it's so nestled and it's so phonetically solid throughout all these 16 bars of this verse that it's so easy to repeat. And there are so many sticky and chewable portions of the verse that make it memorable. And that is because the flow is steady and easily paced, really personifying that swag of somebody who's really got it all figured out. The word choice, more or less, is immaculate. There are some cool, unexpected words throughout the verse, not necessarily hyper technical, but things you wouldn't necessarily associate with the lifestyle of somebody from the South with a bunch of gold in their mouth, kind of riding a candy-coated Cadillac, just swagging on people is how I'll describe it. It's like unique word choices that are rooted in familiarity, and I'll call out a couple of examples. But that pacing and that delivery and just the full-on personification of the swag is why I think you can't necessarily rap better than this particular verse. Couple standout lines. First two, what it do? Paul Wall's catchphrase, more or less, or like signature phrase, if you will. I posted up in the parking lot, my trunk waving. The candy gloss is immaculate, is simply amazing. It's like immaculate is something that we hear often, but I think in kind of the early mid 2000s, you didn't necessarily hear that word too much nestled so snugly in a verse being delivered. I'm on a mission for dime pieces and sexy ladies. Allow me to introduce you to my CL Mercedes. That squeezing in of introduce you to my CL at the end of the bar or the second half of that particular line. There's pace, but oddly enough, even with those rapid syllable counts happening, that elongation of the word Mercedes returns you to that pace and allows you to keep that steady flow if you were saying the verse back, or if you had listen to Paul Wall deliver that verse. That's at least the feeling I get from it. And then obviously, maybe most notably, the standout bar from the verse. Two of my favorite bars all time. A young Houston hard hit all about the Skrilla riding something candy-coated, crawling like a caterpillar. And you don't really hear too much about, or I guess I've never really heard, I think up until this point, caterpillars mentioned in rap before. So I thought that was just unique. But I'm talking unique word choice, the pacing of the verses. I said, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, and just the personification of this character transposed onto Paul Wall's lived experience as the Iceman. Man, I really don't know of a better example of building on a previous verse and then obviously being so perfect in your flow and delivery, just nestled into the beat and making an easily repeatable, digestible, beautiful listen for at least us. And obviously it's cool to just rap the whole verse. It's 16 bars. It's really easy to rap, which I think is also the genius of it as well. So a little quicker example from me today of why I don't think you can rap better than Paul Wall's verse off the song Drive Slow that he did with GLC and Kanye West. But yeah, let me know what you think. Listen to the song if you're unfamiliar with it, since it did come out in the early 2000s. And I know a handful of our viewers that was a little bit before their time. So definitely peep it if you haven't. But yeah, kind of an unconventional turn on you can't rap better than out of me this time, but maybe we'll get more technical next time. In the meantime, I appreciate the time. Like, comment, subscribe. Jordan's building out his vision. We could use all your support, attention, advocacy, and any sort of positive feelings or associations you have. Obviously, I want him to continue reaching these heights that he envisions for himself, and I'm doing my best to help him get there. So any sort of critiques or commentary, also welcome, because I'm not really great at being on camera. But regardless, appreciate the listen. Let me know your thoughts. You can't rap better than Paul Wall's verse off Drive Slow. And I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.